The room was silent, save for the echo of footsteps that seemed to dance nervously along the marble floor. Michelangelo stood before the nearly finished ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, his heart racing. He had poured years into this work, each stroke of the brush a manifestation of his genius, yet as he took a step back to survey the vast expanse of painted figures and images that had begun to breathe life above, despair washed over him. He felt a sharp pang in his chest. This was more than a masterpiece, it was his legacy, his very soul captured in pigment and plaster. But as the sunlight filtered through the high windows, illuminating the fresco's vibrant colors, he knew the end was near. The Pope's voice thundered from the far end of the chapel, "It's not enough." The word struck like a dagger, severing the bond between Michelangelo's ambition and the monumental reality. Suddenly, everything was at stake. What if he failed? What if his devotion to art was for naught? The air was thick with tension. Artists, patrons, and rivals alike loomed like shadows in the corners of his mind. The Medici family, once his staunch allies, began to shift their allegiance like shifting sands. At every turn, whispers of envy crept through the narrow streets of Florence. His rising fame had drawn as much ire as admiration. Rival artists, hungry for glory, plotted his downfall. Michelangelo felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him, a burden stacked high with every breath he took. He recalled the voice of Pope Julius II, demanding perfection from the man who had already sculpted the iconic David. "You must give the people something great. Something that will make them weep." The words haunted him, echoing as he lay sleepless, staring at the stars through his window. He was not just facing the scrutiny of the Pope, he was battling the very essence of his own human frailty, the fear of failure. In the dim light of his workshop, the decision had come to him like a flash of insight amidst the chaos. It was the moment he chose to sacrifice everything for the sake of his vision. He gathered his closest assistants, their faces lit by flickering candles, and spoke with unyielding conviction. "We shall paint the stories of Genesis. We will show the world the divine potential of mankind," he declared. But there was a catch: he would not follow the traditional methods that had governed the art of frescoing for centuries. Instead, he devised an audacious plan to use a new technique, one that would allow him to layer colors with a depth never before seen. The risk was immense. If he failed, it could tarnish his name forever. Yet, the thrill of the challenge ignited a fire within him. This was not merely a task, it was a revolution. As he stood under the immense scaffold, looking up at the vast wooden expanse that would cradle his dreams, Michelangelo believed he was on the verge of achieving something divine. He envisioned the creation of Adam, a moment suspended between the heavens and the earth. "This will change everything," he whispered to himself, half in hope, half in desperation. However, unbeknownst to him, his ambition was also a gamble with fate. The frescoes, while grand in vision, were bound by the whims of the elements. The paint would dry too quickly, the pigments could fade. In his quest for innovation, he had overlooked the fundamental truths of his craft. What he believed would save him, his bold vision, might instead unravel the very fabric of his creation. As the weeks turned into months under the oppressive weight of the chapel's vaulted ceiling, the stress mounted, palpable in every brushstroke. Michelangelo worked day and night, his body aching, his hands trembling. The chapel became a battleground, with the sounds of chiseling and painting echoing through the hallowed halls, a symphony of creation mingled with cries of frustration. "Faster! We must finish before the Pope returns," his assistant urged, anxiety rife in his voice. Every day, the stakes rose higher. The pressure to meet the Pope's impossible standards was crushing. With each figure he painted, he felt the ground beneath him shift, uncertainty gnawing at his mind. Then, it happened. The scaffolding creaked, an ominous sound that sent a shiver through him. He glanced up just in time to see it begin to collapse under the weight of his ambition. With a gut-wrenching crash, tools and paint tumbled down, a cacophony that shattered the silence of the chapel. As dust rose, so did the bitter taste of failure. The aftermath was devastating. Michelangelo stood silent, surveying the wreckage, his dreams buried under the debris, just as the hopes of the Medici family in him seemed to crumble. The rumors began to swirl, whispers of incompetence and failure drifting through the city like a thick fog. "He's lost his touch," they murmured. "The master is finished." But the true betrayal came not from his rivals but from within. His own doubts clawed at him like ravenous wolves. Every mistake replayed in his mind, a relentless taunt. He had gambled everything on a vision he thought was divine, only to discover it was frail and human. In a moment of introspection, he faced the hardest truth: the cost. Of his ambition was not just his reputation, it was the very essence of who he was as an artist, a man who sought perfection but found only chaos. The world would never know the depth of his struggle, they would only see the cracks in his masterpiece. As he returned to the chapel days later, heart heavy but spirit unbroken, Michelangelo realized that life itself is a canvas filled with imperfections. The frescoes, while monumental, were imbued with the essence of his humanity, his flaws, his struggles, and ultimately, his resilience. From the ruin, he began to rebuild, not just the fresco but also his understanding of art and life. Perfection was an illusion, he thought. It was in the very cracks of his work, in the rawness of his humanity, that the true beauty lay. He would rise again, not merely as a sculptor or painter but as a symbol of perseverance against the odds. As the first light of dawn illuminated the chapel, Michelangelo climbed once more onto the scaffold. He took a deep breath, his heart steady. This time, he would paint not just for the Pope or the Medici, but for himself. It was the beginning of a new chapter, not defined by glory or fame, but by the unwavering spirit of a man who dared to wrestle with his own demons and emerged with the artistry of the human experience.